Imagine a world without birdsong, without the rustle of leaves or the hum of insects. This isn't a dystopian fantasy, it's a reality we're inching closer to every day. In this world we're careening towards, the morning chorus of birds is replaced by silence. The gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze is non-existent. The busy buzz of insects, a sound that often goes unnoticed but is a crucial part of our world's soundtrack, has faded away. This world is devoid of the rich tapestry of life we're accustomed to, and it's not a far-off prospect. It's happening right now, right under our noses. This is the shocking reality of our planet's biodiversity crisis. But what does that mean? Biodiversity is a term that refers to the variety of life on Earth. It encompasses every living organism, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale. It includes the multitude of ecosystems they inhabit, from the deepest oceans to the highest peaks. The biodiversity crisis is the alarming rate at which we are losing this variety of life. The rate at which species are disappearing is estimated to be between 1,000 and 10,000 times higher than the natural extinction rate. Yes, you heard that right. Species are vanishing at a rate that's thousands of times faster than what we would expect if humans were not in the picture. This isn't just about losing a few species here and there. It's about the potential collapse of ecosystems, the potential failure of nature's systems that support life on Earth. This isn't a crisis that's being shouted from the rooftops. It's not making headlines every day. But it's a crisis, nonetheless, and it's one that we need to face. The world without birdsongs, rustling leaves, and buzzing insects isn't just a less beautiful place. It's a less habitable one. It's a world that's less resilient, less robust, and less capable of supporting life. And it's a world that we must do everything in our power to avoid. In the face of this crisis, numbers speak louder than words. Indeed, the numbers paint a grim picture of the state of our planet's biodiversity. They tell an alarming story, one that we cannot afford to ignore. There are more than 1 million animal and plant species on the brink of extinction. Yes, you heard that right. Over 1 million. That's more than ever before in human history. Each species, from the tiniest insect to the largest mammal, plays a unique role in the intricate web of life. As each one disappears, that web becomes a little less resilient, a little more fragile. But the crisis goes beyond the sheer number of species at risk. It's also about the rapid pace of decline. Insects, for instance, are disappearing 8 times faster than mammals, birds, and reptiles. This is a real cause for concern. Insects form the backbone of many ecosystems. They pollinate plants, recycle nutrients, control pests, and provide a food source for other creatures. Without them, entire ecosystems could collapse. And then there's the issue of coral reefs. These underwater ecosystems, often referred to as the rainforests of the sea, are vanishing at an unprecedented rate. Half of the world's coral reefs have died in the last 3 decades. And if current trends continue, the remaining half could be gone by the mid-century. This isn't just a loss for the marine species that rely on reefs for food and shelter. It's also a loss for the billions of humans who depend on reefs for their livelihoods, for coastal protection, and for the air we breathe. Similarly, our feathered friends aren't faring much better. Bird species are disappearing at an alarming rate, with 1 in 8 species threatened with global extinction. Birds aren't just beautiful creatures that grace our skies and fill our mornings with song. They're also essential for ecosystem health, acting as pollinators, seed dispersers, and pest controllers. What do all these numbers mean? They mean that we're losing the variety of life on our planet at a terrifying speed. They mean that the intricate web of life that sustains us is unraveling. And they mean that we need to act, and we need to act now. But remember, these numbers aren't just cold, hard facts. They represent real living creatures. They represent the beauty and complexity of nature. They represent ecosystems that have evolved over millions of years, and that could be lost in a fraction of that time. And they represent our responsibility as stewards of this planet to protect and preserve the diversity of life on Earth. These numbers aren't just statistics on a page. They're a countdown to a world without the variety of life we take for granted. Every species lost is a thread pulled from the tapestry of life. But what does that mean for us, for humans? Let's break it down. When we lose biodiversity, we lose more than just the sight of a majestic creature prowling its natural habitat or a vibrant plant paint-stroking a landscape. The biodiversity crisis has profound and far-reaching impacts on us, humans, and our daily lives. Imagine this. You are walking through a forest and you come across a plant. This plant, unknown to you, contains a compound that could cure a disease that has no known cure yet. But before scientists can discover it, the plant becomes extinct due to deforestation. That's a potential lifesaver, forever lost. This isn't just hypothetical, it's happening. For instance, we've derived many of our medicines from nature, including the cancer-fighting drug Taxol, which comes from the bark of the Pacific yew tree. The loss of biodiversity is like burning down a library before we've read all the books. Next, let's talk about food security. We rely heavily on a handful of crops for the majority of our food. But what happens when a disease or a pest threatens these crops? Biodiversity is our insurance policy. The greater the variety of crops we have, the more resilient our food system is. Monoculture farming, that is, growing a single crop over a large area, makes our food supply vulnerable. It's like putting all our eggs in one basket. Then, there's the increased vulnerability to natural disasters. Healthy ecosystems act as natural buffers against disasters. Mangroves, for example, serve as a barrier against storm surges and tsunamis. Forests can stabilize slopes and prevent landslides. Wetlands can absorb excess rainwater and reduce flooding. When we lose these ecosystems, we lose these natural defenses. But the impact doesn't stop there. The loss of one species can set off a domino effect on others, ultimately impacting humans. Think of it as a game of Jenga, where each block is a species. You might remove one block or species without any immediate effect. But over time, as more and more blocks are removed, the structure becomes unstable and eventually collapses. Take the case of bees. They play a crucial role in pollinating many of the fruits, vegetables, and nuts we eat. But bees are in decline, largely due to human activities. If bees go extinct, it would be a disaster for our food system. And that's just one example. There are countless others. The biodiversity crisis is not just an environmental issue. It's a human issue. It's about our health, our food, our safety, and ultimately our survival. We're not just observers in this crisis. We're both the cause and the victims. The biodiversity crisis didn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of human actions. So, what are the main culprits behind this crisis? Let's delve into it. The first and perhaps most significant is habitat loss. As our cities expand, forests shrink, and agricultural demands increase, we're taking over spaces that were once home to a multitude of species. We're essentially evicting them without providing any alternative accommodations. This leads to a decrease in both the number and variety of species, as their habitats are vital for survival and breeding. Then, there's the behemoth known as climate change. Rising temperatures, fluctuating precipitation patterns, and increased frequency of extreme weather events are forcing species to either adapt or perish. Those that can't keep pace with these rapid changes or find new habitats are sadly fading away. Overexploitation is another key factor. Whether it's overfishing in our oceans, excessive hunting in our forests, or overharvesting medicinal plants, we're consuming resources at a rate faster than they can replenish. This unsustainable consumption is tipping the scales of ecological balance, leading to species decline and even extinction. Let's not forget pollution. Our rivers, oceans, lands, and air are not just our resources. They're shared with all life forms. Industrial waste, plastic debris, oil spills, chemical pesticides. They all contaminate these shared spaces, threatening the survival of many species. Lastly, the introduction of invasive species can wreak havoc on local ecosystems. These are species that are introduced, either intentionally or accidentally, to a new environment where they have no natural predators. They outcompete native species for resources, alter habitats, and can even introduce new diseases. Now, if you're thinking, so what? I don't see any tigers or polar bears in my backyard. Why should I care? Well, the consequences of this biodiversity crisis extend far beyond the loss of a few species. Biodiversity is not just about the number of species, it's about the intricate connections between them, the food webs, the symbiotic relationships, the nutrient cycles. Each species plays a unique role in maintaining the health and resilience of an ecosystem. Remove one, and it can set off a domino effect, leading to the destabilization of the whole system. The consequences can be dire. Ecosystems provide us with a host of services, from pollination of crops and pest control to water purification and climate regulation. A loss in biodiversity can jeopardize these services, threatening our food security, health, and quality of life. Moreover, the loss of biodiversity can have profound economic implications. Think about it. The pharmaceutical industry relies heavily on biodiversity for the discovery of new drugs. The tourism industry thrives on the allure of diverse wildlife and landscapes. The collapse of fisheries due to overfishing and pollution can devastate coastal economies. The cost of these losses can be staggering. Finally, there's the moral and ethical argument. We share this planet with millions of other species, each with its own intrinsic value. Do we have the right to drive them to extinction for our short-term gains? We've set the stage for this crisis. Now, it's up to us to change the script. The biodiversity crisis may seem overwhelming, but there is hope. There is power in action. When we feel the weight of the world on our shoulders, it's easy to forget the immense strength we possess as individuals. Each of us can make a difference. How? By protecting habitats. This doesn't mean you need to physically guard a rainforest or a coral reef, although, if you can, that's brilliant. It can be as simple as volunteering at a local nature reserve or even just planting native species in your garden. Communities, too, have a crucial role to play. Neighbors can come together to create local green spaces, or schools can initiate recycling programs. Even businesses can contribute by adopting sustainable practices. Every piece of litter picked up, every tree planted, every sustainable product purchased, these actions add up. And before we know it, we're not just individuals or communities, but an entire movement. On a larger scale, governments wield significant power. They can enforce laws and regulations to protect endangered species, reduce pollution, and promote sustainable practices. They can fund research and development into green technologies, helping us transition to a cleaner, healthier future. But governments are influenced by us, the voters. We have the power to shape policy, to demand change. That's why it's crucial to raise our voices, to let the world know that we care about biodiversity. We can do this in many ways. We can vote for politicians who prioritize the environment. We can participate in peaceful protests. We can use social media to spread awareness and encourage others to join the cause. Education is another powerful tool. The more we understand about the biodiversity crisis, the better equipped we are to fight it. So, let's learn. Let's educate ourselves and others. Let's share knowledge about the importance of biodiversity and the threats it faces. And remember, every action counts. Even the smallest efforts can have a ripple effect, creating waves of change. You might think, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But imagine if every single person thought that way and then decided to act. That's over 7 billion actions, 7 billion sparks of change. So let's not wait. Let's not leave it to someone else. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. Let's take action, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because our planet, our home, is worth it. The future of our planet's biodiversity is in our hands. It's time to act. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now.